Good evening, this is the Oscar Expert here, and it's time to talk about Pearl and Barbarian. Two horror movies that I was a little bit behind on. Barbarian's about a woman who starts staying at an Airbnb and realizes that another man is already booked at this Airbnb, and they don't really know what to do about it, and there's a hallway in the basement that has things in it. And that's all you need to know. If you haven't seen this movie, you should go in cold. I didn't even watch the trailer, and that's for the best. What this movie has going for it above all else is surprises. It is constantly keeping you guessing, going what the fuck is going on, and it loves to pull the rug out from under you, and it loves to make you go, what on earth am I watching? I just need the movie to tell me like what's actually going on here. And that makes the movie very engrossing and exciting. The movie is a trip. At first you're wondering if this Bill Skarsgård guy who our main character is sharing the Airbnb with, like who really is he? And then you're wondering like what the fuck is in this basement? And then by the second half of the movie, you're wondering entirely different things. And where you were in the first quarter and where you are in the last quarter is just worlds away. The three central performances are really good here. Georgina Campbell in the lead role, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. It takes a lot of time with these characters and building up who they are, and it's actually genuinely interesting to hear the dialogue here because the writing's very good. It's not just about getting to those horror elements, it's building up something else here with the characters. And the movie's really well directed too. Great use of POV shots and tracking shots, especially when going through these hallways. It really puts you in the center of the action or the horror. But when the lights come up and all the fun's been had, what is left in this movie? And that is my main question. The movie is trying to do a little bit of like gender dynamics commentary, but I don't know if this ultimately ended up saying that much on this front other than like, yeah, some men, quite toxic. And I feel like when our main character is trying to figure out how she feels about Bill Skarsgård, that is more interesting than Justin Long's character, who is extremely amusing, like, don't get me wrong, but his character has these very obvious toxic traits, and when I'm kind of looking back and forth at these two, I don't really see much of a connection. It a little bit loses the sight of our main character and how she's processing these issues. Really, at the end of this movie, I think it buries itself so deeply in these plot twists and these rug pulls that it almost undoes a lot of the interesting buildup that there was with the juicy dialogue and the interesting characters. And I also didn't really love the last 15 minutes of this movie. You know, a lot of this movie is really questioning what's next and waiting to see how all the pieces are going to play out. But at some point towards the end, everything's kind of on the table. And then from there, it really plays out mostly as expected or in a way that a lot of other horror movies kind of play out. And that was a little disappointing for me because I was waiting to see if the movie would once again pull the rug out from under me. And instead there were a lot of those like sort of close call and reaching for like a weapon moments that felt like they could have belonged in any other movie. And even a couple moments where it's like, how are you surviving? But a lot of this movie is very strong and it's very crazy. I think the movie's looking at how movies like Psycho have subverted audience expectations, and it's saying, why can't we still do that? And I really do appreciate that about this movie. And I like that we care about the conversations, not just the scares, and in general, it's very well crafted. And the scares are also there as well. If dark hallways get you going in horror movies, this pushes that to like its absolute limit. I would give this one a 7 out of 10. Now on to Pearl, which is the unexpected sequel to X, which came out just earlier this year. Apparently it was shot at just about the same time. And this one's a villain origin story of the character Pearl, who is from the movie X, and she's played by Mia Goth, who played Pearl while covered in makeup in X, as well as another character called Maxine, who was that character's shadow. And I feel like this trilogy, you know, it's about to be a trilogy. The third one is called Maxine. That's the character from X who is younger, played by Mia Goth. And now seeing like where X is going with these next two movies, like I feel like this is such an interesting trilogy. Mia Goth's playing these two characters in the first one, and then one of them's a prequel origin story for one character, and one of them's a sequel story for the other character. Like, it's just so cool in the way that these characters mirror each other. And a lot of the movie made me like X more. To give a recap, I did like X, but I definitely didn't love it. It also made me wonder, like, why wasn't Mia Goth like the main protagonist in X? Mia Goth owns Pearl so much, and that she's gonna own Maxine, I expect. I feel like this whole trilogy should belong to her in a way. And looking back on X, I'm kind of like, what was the Jenna Ortega character like really there for? But anyway, enough about X. Pearl is actually very different in terms of genre from X. Yes, they're both horror movies in a way, but Pearl's kind of a Joker-esque origin story and really a character study. And we're following this young woman who will go to desperate measures to keep her fantasies alive. The biggest reason why I really like this movie is that Mia Goth is just fucking phenomenal. You just look into her eyes and you just completely buy that she is this innocent little southern girl with these dreams of Hollywood Technicolor landscape filling her imagination at all times as this escape to her dreary life on the farm with a mother who doesn't want her to pursue this business and who prefers her to take the safe route in life. And she's also in this world that is plagued by war and disease. Mia Goth is just so entertaining and watchable, darkly funny at times. But really, it's this character's deep pain that you buy. And there is a monologue in this movie that is 9 minutes long, and pretty much all of it is just like unbroken takes on her face. And honestly, it was a little heartbreaking watching it. Even after seeing what this character had done to people and how crazy she was, I couldn't help but to sympathize with her plight and seeing how desperate she was to hold on to this dream that she knows deep down is fading away. And that is exactly what I want from a villain origin story. To find myself surprised with how much I care about this character who's doing despicable things. Also, this movie is really well crafted. The cinematography has the vibrance of an old Technicolor Hollywood movie. There are times where the grass just looks super bright and green and the sky is luscious. And it just looks beautiful, and it's in contrast to some other shots like in Pearl's home that are darker and murkier. And I loved the exaggerated lightning flashes during these dinner scenes. I also love how this took place in the same location as X, but it's like a different season, and there's a whole different look and feel to the location. And the score is wonderful. It sounded just like a luscious old Hollywood score. The opening credits are delightful. I just really like the style overall. I mean, maybe as a horror movie, like, it doesn't have that many scares. It does have a couple shocking moments. And overall, the movie does feel a little bit bite-sized. But I really like this movie a lot, and it felt very focused on what it wanted to show about the character, and it just did that really well. Mia Goth's performance and her monologue will stay with me. This one's getting a pretty nice 8 out of 10 from me. And I am very excited to watch Maxine and see what Mia Goth will do with that character. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Who was your first kill?